Welcome to Second Viewing, where love wins every time.
Shaka bra. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Dan. So, as always, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff for the latest news of what's going on for the Second Viewing.
This week on the cast, we're doing it in The Revenant, the Oscar-nominated Golden Globe-winning film, The Revenant.
Two-time Golden Globe.
Will they go for a three-peat? I don't know. That doesn't really... I don't know if that's... Anyways. So, basically what we got going on here is this film is getting a lot of buzz right now. A lot of people are touting it as probably one of the best films of the year. A lot of praise, as we said, at the Golden Globes. A lot of heat coming on. Potentially for Leo to win Best Actor at the Academy Awards. Who knows? So I thought nothing better to choose this movie for this episode. Me and Dan watched the film, and we're going to give you our thoughts pretty much. Dan, right off the bat, man, tell me what you're thinking. What was The Revenant to you? Loaded question.
Very loaded question. It's kind of unreal, the scenery that they pull off, but just how, what they were able to pull off in the natural light, and the conditions they were in is kind of incredible. Like how they pulled through, how they made the movie work against the elements. Pretty insane. That being said, story is fantastic. Leo and Tom Hardy.
We're talking revenge. This is a revenge movie, man.
100%. And it totally comes through perfectly. Tom Hardy plays a really great villain. Tom Hardy is Tom Hardy in this film.
What a legend.
And he's actually... wow. Yeah, he played a really good villain. The fight scene near the end... We won't get into that too much right away, but I gotta say that scene really hit me, really touched me. What about you, Kyle?
Honestly, man, I'm on the same track with you, because this film, to me, I didn't really know what to expect going into this movie. I remember watching the trailer a couple months back, and we were like, whoa, that movie looks so cool. And we had been reading up about, it being shot in natural light. And
of course, we're a fan of Birdman, so...
Fan of Birdman, Iñárritu, his film Beautiful before Birdman, also a good movie. I was excited nonetheless, just because we even noticed in the trailer, some really cool sweeping, panning shots happening. And we're like, this is going to be really well made. And they have the same cinematographer from Birdman, and same cinematographer from The Tree of Life, which is also a really great film and a really visually striking film. So going into this, I was excited for the look of the movie, but I did not really know what to expect, content-wise, in terms of the story and the acting and whatnot.
Yeah, it was the trailer sort of sets you up a little bit. They totally don't give you the full idea of what the movie's
which I appreciate. A lot of trailers aren't that great. They often give you the whole story, and you go watch the movie, and it almost isn't what you expect in a negative way.
Especially with comedy movies and Adam Sandler movies.
I didn't know what to... Well, that's... Yeah. And coming into this movie, I didn't know what to expect, but it was in a good way. I was like... I had heard positive reviews. I try not to read too many reviews. I'll read the odd one. I'll see the odd score here and there. It sticks in my mind a little bit too much, and I get that preconceived notion of what the movie's going to be like. Mm-hmm. I feel like most people probably feel that way sometimes, but... Anyways, nonetheless, went into the film, really, really enjoyed it. This is a long, gripping movie that keeps you on edge from start to finish. You're with this character, going through, literally a waterfall of emotions. And I'm just saying, no, honestly, this is a really well-made film. And, I mean, this movie was being filmed while Iñárritu was going through the promotional and Oscar season for Birdman just last year. They were still filming. And, So
it was a super busy time for him. And He was not having an easy go of shooting. And fun fact, it was shot in Alberta, just one province over from us.
Yeah, really close to us. In fact, he even used to live in the city that this film was shot outside of.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, it's kind of neat, I guess, that we kind of have a weird connection, in a way, to this film. It's interesting
cool,
to see that.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, I guess, obviously, we've never lived in those conditions that this story is telling, but, I mean... We've grown around the surrounding. We're familiar with it, I would say.
Learned about it growing up in school, all that kind of stuff. So
definitely. But yeah, to answer your question, thought the movie was great. I think what we both decided we want to kind of get into on some of the more visual aspects of this movie, because I think that's an important part of this film.
Definitely worth talking about. I mean, some of that, Alejandro is becoming known for the way he shoots and puts together movies these days. Totally. So definitely worth talking about, the way he shoots this movie this time around.
I mean, I guess maybe not fair, but I feel like it's an immediate reaction to compare this to Birdman. It's his last film. It won Best Picture. It was a high-profile movie. Looking at Birdman, you know, Birdman's gimmick, if you will, I don't mean that in a negative sense, was the one-shot take, or the fake one-shot take.
Right.
And that was kind of his editing style, and that was his choice of direction for that film. I think that's interesting because this movie is drastically different.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think he's definitely proving himself as a strong director, but I'm not really seeing him as
a very capable director, like one that can switch up styles.
Exactly that.
You know?
He's coming off as a very strong, versatile director, which I think is cool because, I mean, I know he directed this movie just because we keep up with movie news, but I mean, at the same time, I wouldn't expect him to be the director of Birdman.
Right, yeah, he's very capable of taking on different styles, which is super cool. We should talk about sort of some of the angles, some of the shots, some of your favorite shots from the movie.
Favorite shot, man, hands down has to be when they're coming down the waterfalls, like I kind of alluded to. I thought that was like just breathtaking. I mean, not only are you feeling the pain and struggle that Leonardo's character is going through, but at the same time, like those are huge, panning, wide shots. I assume we were doing a little bit of recon. We couldn't figure out entirely what shot did what, but we looked at a lot and we found a lot of crane shots being used, which
it's crazy how much equipment that they dragged out into the wilderness. And man. It was like we were reading up on this, and apparently they were taking these shots where they had 1.5 hours of daylight to get some of these shots with a huge professional crew.
Yeah.
So.
And these are quick, fluid shots at the same time.
Yeah.
Which I guess would be kind of a similar Birdman style in a way.
Yeah.
Now I think about it.
But, so much more challenging to pull off.
Definitely. And I think you're right. Like, having that limitation right off the bat is definitely, you see that as an achievement in terms of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And I from what I gather, I don't think they really knew what kind of conditions they were getting themselves into. It seemed as if they knew they were going to be under some, like, barrier to entry, but they didn't know what the extent of that was going to be. Like, I don't think they knew about, like, Chinooks. They didn't quite know about, like, how the exact environment was going to end up being.
So, there was that learning curve getting used to the climate and stuff like that.
The waterfall shot was beautiful for me. I just thought, like, I remember thinking to myself, like, how did they film this? I was like, literally, how did they make this? Like, there are shots in this movie that, like, were boggling my mind. Like, how was this made? Like, I mean, there's character-to-character dialogue scenes, which is obviously, regular to shoot. But at the same time, there was some other stuff going on that blew my mind.
Yeah, I'll bring up a couple of my favorite scenes. Was one of which was when Leo was laying on the river and he was trying to catch some fish with that sort of rock barricade that he was building.
Right.
And it was sort of panning just up the riverbank to show that there was someone nearby making a fire and cooking something.
Oh, okay.
That was unreal. But I'd have to say my favorite one was probably when Leo took his horse over the cliff.
Oh, God, yeah.
Just before he crawls inside and lives in it.
That shot is
how
amazing.
did they pull that off?
I want to know, like, were there any animals harmed in the making of this film?
Yeah, like, really.
I bet you Peter's calling right now.
Peter's definitely not happy about this film. Well,
Besides
actually,
the point.
yeah,
they're not happy about anything.
Truly, but
no shade to Peter, but anyways, I guess what we're trying to get at is this movie. I think actually this is what I'm going to say. I'm gonna make a reference to Birdman again, saying like this movie had a style they chose to do that some would call faking, some would call just like really great editing. But this movie was raw, honest, and they pushed the boundaries of cinematography, in my opinion, because 100%. You're bringing up this horse scene and the fishing scene and the waterfall scene. These are all scenes that I don't think another movie crew could make in this time of day. I feel like Alejandro brought on the best team he could have done to make this film. Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes I feel like directors get carried away with trying to come through with one thing, like focus on cinematography too much, focus on comedy too much, focus on, this one thing or another, and they get distracted. He had all the pieces of the puzzle. Yeah, exactly. He put it all together, and it really came through. I would agree with that 100%. And that's why it won the Golden Globes, 2 of them. Yeah, no, I think they're killing it for sure in terms of the Oscar buzz and the awards season coming up. I mean, I don't know if I considered it a dark horse, but I wasn't too sure if I was gonna. I don't know if we really saw it winning everything or being the big contender, but I mean, looking back at this film, I feel like it's fairly obvious why it's getting such praise. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like the cinematography of this movie is unreal. I think even looking at the lighting, this movie was shot in natural lighting. I don't know how much color correction was going on in post. I assume there must have been quite a bit. Either way, this film looks phenomenal. You're getting those large pans of the foggy mountains and the crisp cold of the snow. You're feeling like you're there. When we were talking about The Hateful Eight a couple weeks back, and we were talking how we could feel the cold. This movie made me feel the cold in another way.
Yeah, it's even more gripping and chilling.
Definitely.
If we're talking about The Hateful Eight for a second here, the way that you feel the cold is that it's very manageable, and it's just like a competing force
like
in
a
the
relief.
movie. Yeah, exactly. It's just it's a force. It's in the background, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it really controls the direction of the Revenant.
Totally.
Like the weather, the climate, the atmosphere, the environment. That's what the whole movie is like.
Even to such a larger extent that I guess that feeling of relief is like magnified when he or maximized when he gets into that horse. He literally rips out the innings of a horse and sleeps in it so he can feel warmth for the night.
Exactly.
Like, that's unreal.
Yeah, that's crazy. The amount of perseverance that a person has to have to go through that. It's insane. You really feel it. Like, you really feel like
100%.
Let's bring up Leo a little bit. I mean, wow, super, like, really good performance, but think about all the times he had to crawl into a freezing river, and
that dude went through everything. I was just reading that he made himself puke on this film just to like get into character and become more with what the story was telling him to do.
Really?
Yeah, literally this guy is, I don't know, Leo is interesting because I think people maybe hype him up a lot, but at the same time he keeps delivering time and time again.
Yeah.
He's not the kind of actor that, has one or two really great roles or cult following that people just like to, talk about on the internet and give a lot of praise to. This is an actor that has shown nothing but heart and determination into every role he's been given within the last at least 10 years. But honestly, most of his career at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, I don't know, how would you feel about like Leo going into this movie? Because I'll be honest, I was a little bit skeptical because to me this felt like he was, some people call it Oscar bait. He's going for that Oscar.
Right.
He's overacting for that Oscar. He's giving it all for that Oscar, and sometimes I feel like that can feel forced.
I think
what do you think about that?
Based on the trailer, yeah, I might feel that way. But as soon as the movie started, no, not at all. Not in the slightest.
I completely agree.
Like, the other characters in the film were like reinforced it that much more. Like Leo obviously stood out. So did Tom Hardy, and so did the captain.
Right.
Tom
Hill Gleason.
Tom Hill Gleason.
So then I guess maybe, we'll kind of get into this a little bit later, but just briefly, like, do you think this is Leo's time to win?
I think it might be.
You think so?
I think so, and not just because of the hype, but
based on the performance?
Yeah, based on the performance and really what he had to go through as an actor to make this movie happen.
Right. He's becoming more and more of a character actor, which I find quite interesting. Like, I really like the way he fell into his role in The Great Gatsby. I think he became that role in a really interesting, suave way. And I think we saw, almost a weird evolution of that in The Wolf of Wall Street. But, you see this film, and this is something fairly drastic from any of his previous work in the past, 5 years or so. But I think this is something that's really going to, whether it amounts to him winning an award or not, I think it's really going to mean something years down the line. People are going to look back at this film and say, this is when Leo gave it his all. This is when Leo, this isn't him just hurting his hand on Django Unchained. This is him literally giving himself to the role. Yeah, which is fantastic.
Yeah, totally sacrificing his.
But I think we both agree also on Tom Hardy, man. Like, what'd you feel in his performance?
Tom Hardy as a villain is unreal. Absolutely unreal.
So hateful. Number 9, if you know what I mean. Recording.
It's crazy when Tom Hardy and the crew pulls off shore to avoid getting ambushed, and they have to park there first for a little bit. You really get the idea that Tom Hardy's going to be an opposing force in the movie. Like, he's fighting Leo every step of the way. Doesn't trust him, especially with the fact that he was living with the locals and he was, learning their trade routes and their path and their language, and has a son with one of them, and he's really against that. Holds a gun to him. He's not happy about it, and you can really tell Tom Hardy is going to fight Leo the whole way through.
I think you're right about him being an opposing force because their ideals are completely different.
Yeah.
He, right off the bat, just, is arguing with Leo. He's arguing on what he's trying to accomplish with the group. He's, he's like, I want to get my pelts. I want to get out of here fast. This is how I know how to do it. This is how we should be doing it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Leo's like, hey, you know what? Honestly, like, I've gone these routes over and over again. I know how these tribes are going to be working. I think this is the best way to do it. Honestly, this is what I'm here for. This is what my guidance is about. I'm not here to really step on any boundaries. Only thing I care about is the safety of my son, his well-being, and what I can teach him, what I can bring to the table for him.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Tom Hardy says over and over again, I was not afraid to die, and the only thing he's got left in this world is these pelts and coming home with some money, and why he's up here in this hellhole and all that kind of stuff.
So I guess in a way they're like very like end of the spectrums, right? Like you have your extreme selfish person, and then you have your extreme like caring and concerned person.
Yeah, 100%.
I think Tom Hardy though, like again in the same way Leo does in a way, he falls into this character. He again is striking me as a great character actor. He's you see him in Mad Max this year. He was in Warrior a few years back. Like Locke, he's the kind of guy that has been playing these diverse roles.
And coming up, it's Legend too, right?
Yeah, Legend. Yeah. I think it's interesting though because I see him not being a very dialogue focused character a lot of times in roles, but he can interpret emotion in a similar way that Leo can based on just facial expressions, inflections, how he's using even accents and things like that to get across.
Body language and stuff like that for sure. Yeah.
And those two almost seem like just like natural on screen together.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like a long time coming almost. Which again I would agree. I would say like Iñárritu he developed this like awesome like Motley Crue cast to like come together and create something really special. Like this film like was meant to be made in this day and age, I think. Yeah. And I think Tom Hardy, equally as good as Leo. He's nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
And I think he deserves it.
I think he deserves it too. I think I mean, I think even when we watched the trailer for the first time, like there's one still of him. It's like Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's in this movie too. Yeah. We're like, really? This guy's in everything right now. Yeah. But that's cool because I don't know. I feel like we generally like him. He's great in almost everything I've seen him in. Yeah,
absolutely. Another scene that sort of really shines through with Tom Hardy is where he's with that boy. Remember, he kills Leo's son, but the other guy that's with them, he brings him along and convinces him that Leo's dead and we should leave Leo behind and all that, and they end up lying to the captain about what happened so that they could get their cash and get out, kind of a thing. Right. What ends up happening is Tom Hardy ends up stealing from the safe and running. Right. Yeah. So now he's running from the government, right? Or he's running from he's running from that whole aspect of the life.
Right. Any kind of authority he may have had.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's trying to get out. Like he's committed treason at this point. Right. Yeah. And so he not only establishes there that he doesn't give a shit about anyone else, but he barely gives a shit about himself. Like
his well-being, right?
Knowing what he's done to other people, knowing what he's potentially doing to himself by stealing this cash and trying to get out of Dodge.
Right. Well, his only game plan other than that was to head to Texas.
Yeah. Well, he had found. Well, I think what had pushed him to do this was, he wanted to go to Texas, but other than that, he had found out that everything he had earned on that last journey that was so hard for him
might not have come in for him.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't going to cover his debt. Because he was owing a certain amount of money, so it just covered what he owed.
And I think that added to his rage, definitely, you're right. I mean, that probably shone through a lot in terms of what his, motivation was for the rest of the film, what his character really was worried about, and it was the money. He was concerned about the money, concerned about, himself. But such a cruel, harsh dude, and a cruel, harsh way to look at, I guess even the selfish aspect of human life. Yeah. I don't know. I think looking at straight character development, both Tom Hardy and Leo come off amazingly because Tom Hardy, like you said, off the bat, seems like a fucking douche. He wants to
screw over the locals. He does not care about the locals.
But he gets considerably darker and darker, eviler and eviler as the film progresses. And I think we could say the same thing about Leo in a way where he has passion in his life for his family and for what he knows.
You have flashbacks of his wife. Right. It's kind of like his reasons to pull through and live after this bear has mauled him.
And based on what he based on the circumstances he's in, he gets more passionate, and you see that develop, and you see like these like this like boiling point come to arise, and once this film is finally getting to that final fight, it feels so like great to get that relief of like what's gonna happen, whether who's dying doesn't matter, but you feel that. Like,
yeah, and you don't feel like one is gonna win over the other right away. Like, it's a really balanced point. Like, it's wow, what's gonna happen here? Like, is Leo gonna take Tom Hardy down? Is Tom Hardy gonna take Leo down? Like, what's gonna happen?
Like, the theme of revenge is just very well spread throughout this film, and I feel like we understand Leo's like journey throughout this movie. We understand Hugh's like emotional conquest he's trying to get through, and how he's trying to reach out and you know take vengeance on this man because he killed his son, the only thing he cared about.
It's something to know. It's like Tom Hardy said himself, he's got nothing to live for. But Leo said it too when he got back to the captain's like village or their settlement. When he got back, he was being treated by the doctor. He says, "You don't understand. I've got nothing else to live for
really
anymore."
True. That's actually pretty cool because at the end of the day, that last scene, two men who have nothing to live for, fighting it out just based on revenge and emotion alone.
Yeah, and I think that's what revenge is meant. Two people reduced to nothing.
So that's pretty crazy. I think another really cool aspect of this movie I liked was you were saying the flashbacks, but they were introduced in a kind of a cool dreamlike, almost like stressful psychedelic way. It feels like he was hallucinating during his travel, and I think that was really neat. And again, I would say that is definitely an Iñárritu style based on Burn Man and Beautiful. I think those aspects have really shone through in some of his past work, and they were great in this film. I mean, when his wife is floating and she seems like an angelic figure, still maybe dead angelic figure that is probably trying to symbolize as like the afterlife, symbolizing as something he's never going to get back,
or maybe the temptations
from him.
Maybe even the temptations to just give up, and go join his wife in the afterlife from whatever, and his son. Like, it could just be the temptation to, like, just give up.
Yeah.
Stop fighting for it and stop going after Tom Hardy. But something ends up shining through for him. And I think maybe one of the things that really pushes Leo to the limit is when he sees the guy who had helped him out, fed him a little bit, took care of him while he was sick. When he saw that guy hung in the French settlement camp.
Definitely.
That, I think, might have been kind of a point where he was done. He was giving it all he had. He was all or nothing. He was going for Tom Hardy. He was not going to give up.
That's a really good point, because I think a really awesome aspect of this movie is seeing Leo as the hero, because Leo is the kind of guy, helping out these colonialists, but then he also has connections with, the First Nations people, and he kind of knows their ways, and he meets this man who helps him out. And he's the middleman in a way. And I mean, I feel like part of him like knows that being a middleman often makes him a target. But at the same time, I feel like he understands spiritual aspects. He understands what's right and what's wrong, how to actually pay tribute to some of the aspects of nature. And because of that, he gets respect from both sides, which in my mind makes Leo an amazing hero.
Totally. Yeah, because he's really trying to ensure that everyone leaves happy and everyone gets along and everything works out. He wants, the tribes to be able to trade with the colonists, but he also wants the colonists to go home happy. Right?
And he wants both sides to make things as just as they can. So which some characters like Tom Hardy could care less.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Hardy's a perfect example of someone who would show up, rape, pillage, steal, and then leave home with his earnings.
Just, essentially do what he wants to do and head out.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, honestly, I really feel like this film overall was striking in many ways. I mean, there's a visual aspect, as we talked about. There's a story aspect, and I think the performances altogether make this movie probably one of the best films of the year, I would say. Yeah,
I totally agree. And how many films about revenge are there out there? Like, not a lot that I can think of in the last few years.
Or at least to this extent, because this movie is just about essentially two men in different parts of one area coming together, like, like a rat race almost in a weird way. Like, it's a cool, like, take on that, and I think it's pretty interesting to really see that develop, because I thought this movie I felt it was, my only gripe would be I felt like it was a little long at times.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought, even though I believe that there was so many scenes where you needed to feel the struggle Leo was going through, I feel like that came across very prominently right off the get-go. And I thought that like some of those scenes could have been shortened. I honestly do.
Right.
I feel like the scenery was established and the movie looks amazing, but there was still kind of this longing, panning feel.
Yeah.
That even though I was really enjoying it, I felt like they were kind of just...
It might be a turnoff for some people that aren't.
They were just droning on it for the sake of droning.
Yeah, I think maybe, given the struggle that they went to shoot the movie, they probably wanted to include those clips because they worked so hard to get them.
Fair
which
enough.
I understand, but as far as the movie and the story and the telling is concerned, you're right.
Yeah.
Potentially some of them could be a little bit shorter. At least to include all groups. Like, obviously, movie buffs like us are going to be super into this film. Just because it's amazing. The quality of it's amazing. But... people who aren't so into movies or a little bit more lighthearted when it comes to filming these or watching stuff like that, might be turned off a little bit.
That's interesting. Like, I think we can even look at 12 Years a Slave or Steve McQueen's back catalog and view his long panning shots and his really gripping, grotesque, and heart-wrenching scenes. Kind of could translate that to this film in a way. I think. The only thing though is I think McQueen does it in a stronger way sometimes because he focuses on single scenes as opposed to single isolated scenes based off different environments. But in this film we have one environment, so I feel like these long takes often feel recycled in a way.
Right. Because the environment's so similar.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That being said, I mean, I still think this movie's fantastic, but if I had to put a gripe, I would go with there, honestly. And I was reading some people's thoughts on the hallucinations that you were talking about, and some people thought that kind of took them out of the experience. But for me, that really was just helpful.
Yeah,
in understanding the character.
Agree. I totally agree. Well, I think this might be a good point to end it.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
We'll come back after the break, and we'll talk about some Oscar predictions and stuff like that.
Yeah, catch you after the break, or talk to you later.
Adios, amigos.
I got something on my pads. I don't know what the fuck happened here.
And we're back. We just want to give some final thoughts on The Revenant before we jump in and talk about the Oscars and the nominations, stuff like that. What we really wanted to focus on in our final thoughts of The Revenant is the bear scene. It's kind of an important scene. Really kicks off most of Leo's problems in this film. Kyle, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think like what Daniel said, that's one of the biggest scenes of this movie, and I think it's one important scene that people are going to take away from this film. It's pretty intense. It's really hard to watch in parts. You see Leo get torn to shreds by this bear. It's very realistic, and I think the CG work on the bear is fantastic, and especially in terms of the surrounding and the context of the setting. Yeah, I think that's definitely the biggest thing people are remembering from this movie. It's the joke going around, it's the meme going around right now that the bear is going to win the Oscar instead of Leo. And, as cliche it might be, that's probably the perfect segue into our next segment here, talking about what the Oscars, the Academy Awards are going to hold coming up in the next season here.
Yeah, so we had some predictions going in. We predicted that Mad Max would be on the list. I think we mentioned that Spotlight might show up. We also...
The Big Short, too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we brought up The Big Short, that's right. And we also said Star Wars was going to make the list somewhere, and I think that's kind of where we fell through.
Yeah, Star Wars, I think, I don't know. It might have just been us, talking about Star Wars for about, over an hour, being so hyped up on it.
Yeah, we might have been a little overhyped ourselves, so...
Yeah. But it did get some nominations for technical achievement and stuff like that. And I think we'll probably revisit those awards when when the actual awards are announced and they're given away. Right now we're just going to focus on kind of the top 8 or so, the big ones. Yeah. And so for Best Picture, we got ourselves Spotlight, Revenant, Mad Max Fury Road, The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Room, and Martian.
See, I think those are all pretty sweet nominations. Mind you, I haven't seen Bridge of Spies, and I've heard very little about it.
Yeah, that one kind of flew under the radar in a sense. I mean, it was a Steven Spielberg film, so, I mean, there was a lot of promotion. There was a lot of, early high praise for it, like most Spielberg films get. This is his first film since Lincoln, which I love Lincoln. I thought it was a fantastic film. Have not seen Bridge of Spies either, although I've been hearing great things. I was a little surprised to see it get a nomination. I'm not really sure why. Maybe just because, I don't know, wasn't really thinking about it.
Well, like you said, it did fly under our radar a little bit. I think we just got caught up in all the hype around Star Wars and
it came around that time too.
Mad Max Left Behind. Mad Max sort of blew a lot of things out of
Dusty
the
trail
water
for
me.
sure.
Yeah,
That's a dusty trail right there.
That's a dusty trail.
Yeah, actually, I haven't yet, but I haven't seen all of The Big Short yet. I need to catch up on that. I need to see Bridge of Spies, and I haven't seen The Martian yet. And excuse me, when The Martian even first was released, it was getting a lot of high praise, a lot of good reviews. Matt Damon's performance, I haven't seen it yet, but I really want to. But Dan, you have seen The Martian. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. For me, I saw The Martian right after I saw Interstellar, so I was having Interstellar flashbacks the whole time.
Well, they're the same movie, aren't they?
Some might say, but it's definitely worth a second viewing.
Oh, cool. So maybe we'll revisit that at a later date. But
for the time being, yeah, I don't think we want to talk about that too much until we have some more thoughts to bring to you guys.
For sure. But just looking at this list, coming to mind here, I think the three front runners in my mind would be Spotlight, Mad Max Fury Road, and The Revenant.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
I like Spotlight quite a bit. I thought it was a fantastic film, but it also, to me, the only reason I say that is because it just seems like an Oscar choice. It seems like the kind of subject matter and the kind of film that the Oscars sometimes choose as their best picture.
Right.
So, I mean, take that as you will. I mean, obviously that's not fact at all. But
you know what? I think in recent years things have maybe changed a little bit.
I would agree with that, definitely. I mean, I think people got really mad about the King's Speech, and by people I mean me winning over Social Network. So I don't know. I consider that kind of like Oscar bait, an Oscar baity movie. But at the end of the day, I feel like Revenant and even I would say Revenant or like Mad Max might be the underdog in a way and come out and win Best Picture because I don't know, critics and audiences alike love that movie. Yeah. There's good reason for it.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move on to the next category here.
Yeah, so we got Best Actor in a Leading Role. So of course, like we talked about for the last 40 minutes, Leonardo in The Revenant. Matt Damon in The Martian, Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs, Bryan Cranston in Trumbo, and Eddie Redmayne in The Danish Girl. Like the thing about this category for me is Fassbender is like the best probably ever. So I mean, but
Fassbender's really killing it these days.
The thing is like the role he's nominated for here as Steve Jobs. It's something about it doesn't feel like it's his role to win the award for. Mm-hmm. It feels off for me. I feel like him playing such a notable character rather than his own take on a character seems not quite fitting.
Right.
And I think...
But mind you, we haven't seen the movie yet, so that might have to wait.
We have kind of a Steve Jobs project. We're going to kind of announce at a later date here, and you guys will get some more thoughts on that. But so what are you thinking? Matt Damon, Leonardo, Fassbender, Cranston, Eddie Redmayne. Like, is it Leo's time? Like, what do you think?
It's a super tough call to make, especially since I haven't seen all the movies in the list.
Well, I saw Trumbo. I saw The Danish Girl. I think I didn't see Matt Damon in Martian, and honestly, he won the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical, so he's a high contender up there.
Well, let's get real here. Comedy or musical. Doesn't quite fit the category, in my opinion. Well, I guess Matt Damon he's got some jokes. I was a little bit upset about that one, but you know what? It's
whatever. I mean, I think you have a good point. Like, I haven't seen the film myself, but I mean, trust your judgment on that one. But I think it's Leo's time.
I think you're right.
And I think,
but
just
it is
given his competition too, like not to underclass these actors or their roles, but
yeah, that's why it's such a hard decision.
Yeah,
you know, so it's such a tightly knit list.
And then so we'll move on here to Best Actress: Brie Larson in Room, Saoirse Ronan in Brooklyn, Cate Blanchett in Carol, Jennifer Lawrence in Joy, and Charlotte Rampling in 45 Years. I've not seen 45 Years, although we're getting it in our local cinema soon, so maybe we'll check that out.
Yeah, as far as the list looks, I think The Room is taking that for sure.
The Room, Blanchett. Definitely. Brie Larson in The Room, yeah.
I think she's sorry, not The Room.
It's I work in a movie theater in town here, and we were playing Room, and everyone coming and asked for tickets for The Room, and we were cracking many goofs and gaffs, telling them to get tickets to The Room to bring spoons later for the show.
Plenty of goofs and gaffs.
Too many, probably. Actually, it got really old. Like, first night it was funny, the second not so much. But yeah, honestly, I agree with you. I think Brie Larson has it in the bag. Like, yeah, I think we talked about this last cast. Like, it's her role to win. It's her chance. Not even a chance. It's like she is so striking in that movie. She becomes that character. You relate with her on so many levels, and Yeah, I don't know. I think it's her. I think all the women in this category actually are really talented, like Cate Blanchett, Jennifer Lawrence, Charlotte Rampling, Saoirse Ronan. Actually, Saoirse Ronan is a really great up and coming actress. She's fantastic in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is also a fantastic film. Also, highly recommend checking that out. But yeah, Brie Larson, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, so we'll go to maybe a best supporting actor on this one. So we have Sylvester Stallone for Creed. He won it for the Globe. It's pretty crazy.
It was kind of epic, actually.
It was a little bit epic, yeah.
The Globe.
Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies. Mark Ruffalo, Spotlight. Christian Bale, The Big Short, and Tom Hardy for The Revenant. Mark Ruffalo and me have a bit of a history, and by that I mean I just don't like the guy. I don't really know why. Just never been a big fan. Anyways, so Tom Hardy.
Dude, Mark Ruffalo in 13 Going on 30 though kills it.
Yeah, he's really great. He's fantastic.
Just bugging you.
No,
But,
I mean, to be fair, he actually is really good in Spotlight. I just like to make fun of Mark Ruffalo for no reason.
I gotta say Tom Hardy, and not because we're talking about The Revenant, but because I think he really deserves it.
100%. In fact, I thought he was snubbed at the Golden Globes. He wasn't nominated.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a disservice, honestly. But he seriously killed it in The Revenant. I mean, you just heard us talk about that, and
It was
why
a
we
really
feel that way.
interesting year for movies, actually.
I think there was some really cool stuff going on. I mean, in this category alone, you got action films, you got dramas, you have biopics, a lot of cool stuff going on
Yeah,
here.
a lot of people pushing the limits.
Yeah, and
It's good to
although,
see.
Stallone, you never know. You never know. I would say Tom Hardy put in the better performance, but I mean, I could see Stallone winning it just because, the Academy is his peers, so they might vote for him,
Right.
You got to keep that in mind sometimes, I guess. I'm kind of bittersweet way to look at the awards sometimes, but it's kind of the way it is, unfortunately. All right, so best supporting actress, we got Rooney Mara in Carol, Jennifer Jason Leigh in The Hateful Eight, Kate Winslet for Steve Jobs, Rachel McAdams for Spotlight, and Alicia Vikander in The Danish Girl. I think Jennifer Jason Leigh should take this one home. She was amazing in Hateful Eight. I don't know. I think the way she kept her composure for a lot of the film and played into the role of the crazy damsel in distress or whatever you want to put it. I think
Basically, she's the gang member's sister, right?
Yeah, and she ends up owning that role. She ends up owning the room. She ends up really coming to terms with the character that we kind of thought she was, and she flips it on our heads near the end.
It's kind of crazy. She ends up being the one that's making the ultimatums, making the decisions, pushing. Her brother's shot, her crew is pretty much dead for the most part, and she's doing whatever she can to survive. So it's crazy when pushed to that limit how her character sort of changes from this crazy I don't care type personality to this almost very intelligent character.
Right. Yeah, definitely. You could tell, I guess, throughout most of that film that she was hiding something, and I guess maybe that's what she kind of revealed near the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we'll probably just go down to Best Director here, which is a pretty cool category this year. We got Alejandro Iñárritu for The Revenant, George Miller for Mad Max, Tom McCarthy for Spotlight, Adam McKay for The Big Short, and Lady Abrahamson for Room. And I don't know, I just want to shout out to Adam McKay for The Big Short. I mean, this is the kind of guy that's been directing Will Ferrell movies for years, Anchorman, the other guys, stuff like that. Awesome, hilarious movies in my opinion, but you just would not expect him to direct The Big Short. And I think, from what I've seen at least, he really pulls it off.
Yeah, I've got to say, yeah, absolutely. It's really well written.
And if I had to pick between who's going to win, I would say it's a very close race between Alejandro Iñárritu and George Miller for Mad Max.
I'm really, not that I'm opposed to Alejandro. I really like his films, but I think George Miller really deserves it. Mad Max was unreal.
I agree. I could definitely see George Miller winning for Best Director, but then maybe having Revenant win Best Picture.
Right.
I could see that happening.
But I think both deserving of an award.
Totally agree with you, man. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, there's some other stuff going on here. We have, Best Animated Feature. The one that really sticks out to me was Inside Out. Did you end up catching Inside Out?
Yeah, I did.
Cool Pixar movie, man.
Super
awesome
cool Pixar movie, yeah.
Had a lot of fun with that one.
It's really creative, something I never would have thought of before.
Then we also have When Marnie Was There, which was the latest Studio Ghibli film.
Haven't seen it, actually.
Oh man, it's a nice little story. I got it on Blu-ray. You can borrow it if you want.
All right.
It's a good time. I think it's a nice return to a dramatic kind of dialogue and story focused Ghibli film rather than the whimsical highly imaginative versions. It's not a Miyazaki film. It's another studio head at Studio Ghibli. But, I mean, again, still a great film. And I don't know, I think it's definitely deserving of a nomination. We got mad love for Ghibli, so it's kind of cool to see them get a nomination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although I would probably say Inside Out's probably going to take it just because...
It's so creative. Like, it really is.
Oh, it's a really nice, fairly original take on emotion. I think it's just fun. It's a really nice way to, like... and kind of get that conversation going with kids, kind of like have that really cool coming of age story that doesn't really feel too invasive, but at the same time can make kids feel, comfortable talking about those kind of things.
It's kind of about like all your emotions working in unison. There's a need and purpose for all, and it's kind of a nice, lighthearted movie.
Well, I think it's story. Cool. It's cool because it's a family movie. We watch it now as adults, but I feel like the young child in the theater also got the same much out of it as we did.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
So I think like overall what we're trying to get at here is that these awards are very similar to the Golden Globe nominations, which hasn't really happened in previous years. I know we kind of focused on that last cast and we were a little bit hesitant to bring that up again just because they're very similar, but I don't know. I think it makes things a bit easier. I think this time around we don't have to kind of like looking at wild cards or what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. I think it takes... it gives us a good chance to kind of look down and break down these films. So that's why we're taking a look at The Revenant today, because I would say overall we would consider it the biggest contender to win. Yeah. And, we took a look at that film, we watched it again, we wanted to kind of critique it and give you our thoughts on it. And, I mean, Mad Max was a huge movie for us, so I think we're really happy that it's getting the love that it deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the second viewing, but how many times have we seen Mad Max?
Maybe too many. Just
no,
kidding.
Never too many.
Mad Max is a really fun time overall, and I think this is a really interesting year for cinema, like we were talking about. I think all these movies kind of shot up out of nowhere near the end of the year. That happens a lot for award season, but the one that stands out is Mad Max. This film came out so far back in the year, I think like in May or something like that. Like a lot of times films that get released that early in the year just kind of get forgotten by the time the award season comes.
Yeah, and totally this one has stood out and held its ground the whole way through.
It would be interesting though if Revenant does win. That'd be Alejandro's second best picture film in a row. That hasn't happened since the 30s, I believe I was reading about.
That's really cool. That's kind of exciting to see.
Yeah, that is really exciting. He could potentially win Best Director. Again, I would say he's definitely has a good shot at that.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the big contenders.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this award season is maybe not as I guess I wouldn't say exciting, but I feel like it's not like up in the air. I feel like there's definitely like 2 or 3 like big contenders that are going to sweep the show. And I think, I mean, take it as you may, that might be kind of exciting for some people, or maybe kind of like a little bit not as exciting because you're not really like expecting some sort of shock or surprise. But at the same time, I think this is kind of what an award should mean. This way we can actually celebrate and give praise to, the films that really deserve it.
Yeah, the films that stood out.
Yeah,
it really did.
And they keep changing the list, the number of award films nominated. It was like 10 one year. Before that, it was only like 5 or 4. Now it's 8. It's interesting that they're choosing to like shorten it and shrink it and extend it.
Well, I think with how films are evolving over the last few years and how quickly and all these new boundaries being pushed, that it's kind of necessary to take a look at how to give away and present awards.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I mean overall they're allowing more films for the Best Picture. I mean, last year, a couple years ago, they had 10. You have 8 now. It's 2 less, but still, I think 8 as opposed to 5 or 4 is much better. Yeah. It gives, I feel like because of this, maybe films like The Martian or even Brooklyn wouldn't have got nominated, and they have a fair chance now.
Right, exactly, because maybe they don't stand out as much, but they're still important contenders.
Definitely. Yeah, totally, man. I think you're right. It just seems weird that in my heart, I feel like it's Revenant's year for some reason. Yeah. I really do.
I think you're right.
I want Mad Max to get some love, I really do, but I think it's time for The Revenant. I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit shocked. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this movie as much as I was, or much I have, sorry, but
we tried really hard not to hype it up for ourselves.
We really did. We saw this trailer like at least 4 or 5 months ago, and we were like, this movie is probably going to be good. Let's just back pocket it. Let's not talk about it for a while.
Yeah.
When it comes out, we'll check it out.
I think in one of our beta versions of the cast, we even brought it up and talked about how like films we were excited for this year, and Revenant was right up at the top of the list.
Oh yeah, we have been thinking about it for a while.
But yeah, we really didn't want to hype it up too much for ourselves. We didn't want to look into it too much. We wanted to go into it with a level subjective head.
I think it's time. It's the Rev year of the Rev.
Year of the Rev.
Man, how do you usually watch the Academy Awards? Like, do you usually watch them, or do you just kind of see the recap?
No, I usually watch them, but it's more or less background to what I'm doing, and then I'll go in for a recap afterwards and check and see what happened. So I'll sort of do both, but it's really sometimes it's a little dreary and daunting to watch it.
Well, I feel like they struggle year to year trying to make it as entertaining as they can.
Yeah,
like the opening monologue is always pretty funny.
Yeah,
but then after that, you're just like waiting to see who wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I feel like I've had some pretty good times at the Academy Awards in the past. Like, whole family's watching, popcorn going around, we're hanging out, keeping ballots of who's winning, taking guesses, that kind of stuff. It's always pretty fun. Local theater that I work at, actually, we often like host the Academy Awards for free. It's a live broadcast. You can come down, bring the friends and family. You can watch it on the big screen. We got some local people I'm seeing and stuff. Concessions open. It's a fun time.
Yeah,
I've been doing that the last couple of years, and it's kind of cool. I mean, you go with a couple friends, you watch it on the big screen. It's a different experience.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I was gonna just touch on how it's difficult to make them entertaining year to year, and I think that's probably because, and you're right, the opening statement is always pretty funny, but after that it tends to get a little bit dull. You're waiting to see who wins, but it's got to be hard for them because they want to give everyone their fair time on stage, and they want to, give them the full recognition that they
respect
deserve.
Respect is due to everyone, sort of thing.
Exactly. So, yeah, I could see why they might struggle keeping it super entertaining the whole time. Mind you, it's not like it's not fun to watch. It's definitely something I look forward to every year.
It's fun to watch. I think its only issue is it's so damn long.
Yeah.
It runs like 3 hours. Like it's a long show.
And maybe that's why they the amount of people that the nominees are changing.
Yeah, I mean that
could
probably
be
has a lot to do with it.
Reason.
I think I don't know. I think the award shows in general often like can struggle like keeping people's attention. Mm-hmm. Any show, whether it's the Grammys or the Emmys or whatever. But I think the Academy Awards always feel so grand to me. They feel like the biggest deal. I mean, obviously, this is a movie podcast, so of course, movies probably mean more to us than other things. But I mean, we watch other, we like music a lot, stuff like that. Yeah. We definitely keep up to date. But the Academy Awards, they always feel so like they just feel Hollywood to me. They feel like ritzy. They feel like for a minute you kind of feel like you're back in the 50s watching something like that's really important from movie history, movie magic.
It's got kind of a classy, suave feel to it.
I completely agree, and I like when they pay tribute to actors who have passed away or past films that have won, and you get this sense of almost like a film community sort of. I think the Oscars do a really good job at doing that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Right, fuck it, get.
So I think that sums it up for this week. We wanted to bring up the Oscars because they were announced last week after the cast, so figured we'd talk about them.
They'll be coming up on February 28th. So, I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on them again sometime before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much our whole thoughts on it. Thoughts on The Revenant. Even more thoughts on The Revenant, really. Basically, that's what we got into. I guess that happened with Star Wars last week, so whatever. Maybe it's a recurring theme. But anyways, guys, thanks for joining the Second Viewing Podcast. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All the things out there. Subscribe on YouTube, please. It really helps us out. Yeah, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Dan.
We're signing off. Have a good week.
You too.